like I said before, there is a common refrain that you're hearing that woke is dead, that people are tired of it. And I don't know if that's actually the truth. And so I'd be interested in hearing, particularly in counterculture spaces, right? Like, I feel like that's where kind of woke really started to get its legs under itself is in counterculture spaces, in places online when there used to be an underground. I'm strongly of the opinion there is no longer an underground, that the underground is the idea of an underground is basically been vaporized because of the internet. It used to be where you'd have to go and find things, like you have to actually physically go to a place to interact with people that have counterculture ideas or that in a space that you consider the underground. Now it's just a few clicks away. But the idea that woke is actually done is something that like I said, I would push back against. And I think that you guys probably agree, but I'd like to hear your opinion and your experience.
I mean, with woke being dead definitely refers to the mainstream spaces. There's definitely been a sort of societal rejection of things like with movies and TV shows. Like, we don't want this in here anymore. You have like these serial flops from movies and stuff like that. And there's a societal rejection of this. However, it is now shifting to its last bastion, which is alternative subcultures. Because, like you said, Phil, it has always had an aspect of like, at least that's where woke has come from. That's what woke looks like. It looks like alternative subcultures. So
to that point, everyone has the image in their head of the blue-haired, piercings.
It used to be cool.
Yeah, and exactly.
This all used to be cool. It's not cool anymore.
Yeah,
and that's the whole point. Make goth cool again is what I'm trying to say.
ever since you could go to the mall and get your tongue or septum or ears pierced, get
septum piercing
or a facial piercing. If you can go to the mall and get studs put into your cheek, it's no longer underground. It's no longer counterculture.
Yeah, I mean, that stuff was relatively inoffensive when you really. It's all superficial, Like these piercings can be taken out, tattoos can be removed. But of course, now with the woke movement, there has been a far more permanent addition to a lot of the ideologies, which is obviously the gender ideologies that has been introduced, which I think mainly is the largest contention people have in mainstream with woke culture, and that there's no small amount of that in alternative subcultures at the moment. But yes, it is shifting out of mainstream, and there definitely is a fight, like, here on the mainstream. There's mainstream voices, but me and Brian here are the sort of the alternative voices that sort of contest the woke ideology, because wokeness is, by its very operation, a form of conformity.
Yep.
And alternative and countercultures are meant to renounce any form of conformity. And we're just trying to reform the subcultures the best we can, despite the noise, Brian. I mean, you can attest to some of the contentions that you've had over the years.
The opposing the rules you're sort of assigned when you I don't know, elect to go down this darkened path, like sign up at your local Hot Topic or whatever. Like,
Hot Topic really was kind of like the first thing where people were like, oh, wait a minute, maybe this is mainstream. And again, I bring up the mall, right? Like, the mall was, in the United States at least, and I think that it's probably different in the UK, but not significantly, because the cultures have shared so much in common for at least as long as the US has been a country. The fact that you can go to the mall and see what is popular, what is cool, see what is also mainstream, and Hot Topic had become, and still probably is, kind of the corporatist, superficial demonstration of the quote unquote underground subculture. What's your experience with that, Brian?
I mean, It was a weird thing to like Hot Topic was sort of like, I mean, it's the whole thing shifted, I think, when the logo changed from the flaming thing to the block letters that they have now. But I mean, I only brought up Hot Topic just because it was sort of this weird incursion into what was such an underground thing that it's now next to the Juxtapose at the mall, but. It's
Hot Topic, PacSun, Forever 21,
right? Right, and it would just abut the edge of what's really subversive. But even then, I mean, I don't. recall like getting signing off on a set of beliefs just because I like to listen to Suicide Commando or something like that. Like, well, you like this band, so you must believe that. I mean, you have to, right? Like, no.
Have you guys heard of the store called Spencer's?
Sure.
So we have a lot of those. I don't see many Hot Topics anymore, but it used to be like a similar store to Hot Topic. A lot of skateboarding and stuff. And they still do a lot of skateboarding, but you go in there now, there's like all this like lefty edgelord like magnets and t-shirts, but the worst part is the amount of adult toys for women, and it's insane. Like, this used to be a skateboard shop, and like, I'm not familiar with like goth or punk, like which one, but it was part of this culture that you guys are talking about, and nowadays it's unrecognizable.
I think that the fact, I think this speaks to the idea that we kind of touched on before, that the underground used to be more than just window dressing. And I think that when you put it, once you get the imagery and the style into your major, mall outlets, that kind of shows that it's no longer underground. I mean, so when I was growing up, when I was a kid, and this is, going back a long time, but like, I had to go to a specific store that was, like half an hour from my house. And I'm 14, 15 years old, so I had to get a ride from mom, if I wanted to listen to death metal bands, right? If I wanted to find the latest release from whatever European death metal band, I had to go to this place called the Music Outlet. And if I went down there, you couldn't just open it up and listen to it. You had to go ahead and look at the cover and be like, "Ooh, this one looks cool."
That's why vinyls were so big, man. So like they told the story of the band on the front there.
You had to bring it home, and you were like, hopefully that you liked it,
right?
But maybe you didn't, and
then
that,
just hope it was on the kiosk, like
right. But it was a commitment and it took effort. Nowadays, if you want to find something that looks counterculture, it's only a Google search away.
Yeah. Well, to perfectly sort of confer what you said there about social media sort of ruining the underground. The mall was sort of this place where social interaction sort of reigned supreme. And I don't know if you've ever met any alternative kids. They're not the most outgoing, right?
They are not. No. That's part of the reason why they're kind of looking for the alternative lifestyle.
Right. They're the most non-confrontational types of people. So, you could go to the mall back in the 90s and the early 2000s, pre social media being the prevalent way for people to communicate. And you could maybe have some conflicting ideologies with someone, but you're not going to bring this up because that would start an argument, and that's horrible, right? That's the worst thing ever. So the one unifier you had with all those around you was the stuff that made you all happy, the stuff you could all talk about, which was, the clothes and the music and, the video games that you're playing at the time, because like 2003, 2004, all the video games were edgy as hell. You had Devil May Cry, and you had...
the Jake Munro game itself.
Devil May Cry 3, the Jake Munro game itself. That's right there, me and my brother fighting for eternally. And... you also had Silent Hill, right? It was like just everything back then was
Gears
edgy.
of War.
Gears of War, yeah.
Industrial
everything back then was like edgy and cool and goth and shit, right? So you could talk about all this stuff forever. And then the migration happened, right? They sort of receded into the safety of their bedrooms, and now you could have these mall meetups digitally.
Right.
And they all suddenly became way braver.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I can tell that's where you're going with it.
Yeah, right.
Because,
so, whenever you go to social media, because you're no longer confined within a mall, social media has the naturally spreads and can be shared, and things can be and people can grow and people can get followings and stuff like that. So yeah, I think that was definitely the end of the underground there. But also, I think Linkin Park also ruined everything as well. Don't get me wrong, I love Hybrid Theory and all that kind of stuff, but like when they took new metal mainstream, and then Korn decided to stop doing it.
Yeah, because I grew up with Linkin Park, and like that's my idea of like, I don't want to say heavy metal, but like punk and just that kind of like alt culture.
It was a gateway drug, man, for a lot of people. Yeah.
And I think to your point, again, not trying to sound like I'm criticizing Linkin Park. There are a lot of people that would say that all that remains is what modern would be commercial metal nowadays, which is fine with me. But the idea that you had to have, that you were looking to make abrasive music, right? You were looking to make music that intentionally wasn't for everybody. You were looking for a style that intentionally wasn't for everybody, right? It was supposed to keep people that that were looking to be accepted in the mainstream. It was supposed to keep those people out.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that, and we, and I say we, speaking of, as three guys that kind of come from that scene.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
It wasn't that we were intending to exclude anyone. It's just that the imagery and the music that did that for us.
Yeah.
We weren't keeping you out. You were welcome if you liked it.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter, what your personal opinions were about anything else. It was just like, if you like this music, if you like this style, you can come to shows and you can hang out and we'll be cool. It's fine.
Yeah.
The fact that the imagery kept people away, that was good enough for us.
Yeah.
And it was a great filter. It was a great sorting mechanism. And so you didn't have that kind of gatekeeping by people with saying, well, you don't have the right opinion,
right,
so you have to be kept out. You think you like something that doesn't fit in here, so you have to be kept out.
It was thought crime.
Yeah, exactly. There was no thought crime, and the edginess was part of it. So I oftentimes I see people that are saying. People say this to me on the internet. They're like, oh, well, punk rock would hate you, and punk rock's about, these particular politically correct opinions.
Unbelievable.
And I'm like, well, I remember there's pictures floating around of, Sid Vicious from the 80s wearing a swastika.
Yeah. You could get those from, what was the name of the street in London you could get all those clothes from? It was,
Camden?
No. Vivienne Westwood came from it. She worked there. And then she went on and she managed, I think, the Sex Pistols. It was that shop, and you could get swastika stuff there, and all sorts of really ambiguous slogan clothing that meant anything and nothing.
And if you saw punk in the late 80s or early 90s wearing that stuff, you didn't think that they actually were white nationalists.
Yeah.
You kind of generally thought that maybe they're just trying to be edgy. But the imagery is what kept normal people out, as opposed to the attempts to manage what people think and thought crime stuff.
Yeah, it's amazing to me that now punk rock is do what the government tells you. Like, if you don't get the shot,
the communist subsidization is so love.
It's unreal. Like, if I don't follow the opinions of what the government is and do what you tell me, I'm not punk anymore. Like, we're in clown world 1,000%, especially in alt world.
I think it's just a game of telephone with punk, to be honest, because punk always had this anarchic side to it, anarchism, which is always the first part of communism, right? Which is tear it all down and then obviously rebuild and everything, everything for everyone by everybody except the ones who have the money and all the stuff, not their stuff, everyone else's stuff.
Yeah.
But anarchism was always the first step of communism, which is, destroy the system. I don't care, bring it all down, and then maybe we'll have something there for everybody after.
I think if you talk to anarchists, and I'm not talking about the modern anarchists, because again, everything is so
the
watered
definitions
down.
have changed so terribly.
But if you talk to anarchists back in the day, I'm not so sure that, and not that I'm pushing back on your point, because I agree with you. Modern anarchists, it's almost always anarcho-communist.
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
the anarchy is actually a cover for to bring in the social control that comes with communism, the single-mindedness.
Yeah.
But I don't imagine, or it wasn't my experience that if I talked to anarchists back in the day, that they actually had a coherent ideology beyond tear it all down.
Yeah.
Right? Like back in the day when punks were like, oh, I'm an anarchist because F the government and I just want to get drunk. They weren't thinking about, okay, F the government, tear it all down so that way we can rebuild. And rebuilding wasn't in the cards.
You would not see John Lydon rebuilding anything.
Yeah, right.
But no, you're 100% right, man, because this is the difference, and this is what has shifted, culturally speaking, within subcultures over the last couple of decades. What separates us so definitively is the fact that back then, they were artists. They were expressing themselves. Now we have activists. We don't have artists anymore. And everything is secondary to ultimately, which is the total reformation in this leftist authoritarian hellscape that they wish to maintain, that they'll never get. And because they can't get it, this is their adversity that they're fighting against. We can't destroy everything. Woe is us.
And it's this thought guarding, even. Like, if you talk to the wrong person, now you're platforming them, right?
Yeah.
Like, or we can't let this idea be its own idea for a second. It's got to be destroyed with this intensity of 1,000 Suns in the subculture that's supposed to be the weirdos, right?
Well, this is I was saying, talking about this in the car as well. Like, it's one thing to be gatekept from the subcultures, right? To be rejected, entrance based on having an ideology that doesn't match like leftist Californians, weirdly. Global, alternative subcultures have to conform to like West Coast liberalism. It's the fact that you're rejected. That sucks. Can't enjoy the same spaces, right? We can't all hang out in the same place. It's the fact that they then go after you.
Yep.
It's reactive now. Gatekeeping has always been there to a degree. As soon as the internet came in, gatekeeping sort of became a fun little game they enjoyed playing. And the gatekeeping we had was, name 3 songs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was it.
Right.
Oh, you like Susan the Banshees? Name 3 songs not from the Juju album.
That's such a good point. And now it's, can men become women? If you don't, I'm going to just destroy your life.
Yeah, and I pointed this out. I actually figured out why they shifted this.
What's that?
Because they wanted goth to be political. They wanted to gatekeep based on politics. Goth music is not political in any way.
Yeah.
They will be goth music that has a political individual that made something sort of ambiguously like maybe stop war for a bit, maybe. But because the music itself was not enough to keep people like, me and Brian out of it, they then had to change the stance of the gatekeeping.
Yeah.
Because if the music itself was enough to keep us out, we wouldn't even want to be in it anyway, right? If the music was like constantly just like, transition your kids. Transition your kids, castrate them when they're young.
It's pretty catchy. We should write that one down.
But yeah, do you know what? I'm not even going to mention the name of the album. That's track 1, right?
That's track 1 right there.
So they had to shift the nature of the gatekeeping to a political one so that they could maintain control over it. It's the same. It's the same flavor. It just now has a more belligerent force behind it.